On BBC One now, the second part of our major drama portraying the life of Lord Reith, the founder of the BBC. Starring in the title role is Tom Fleming.
This day, May the 2nd, 1932, belongs to you all. And it is my privilege to welcome you to your new home. Broadcasting House, Portland Place, London, W1, the center of the world. The Prime Minister, Mr. Ramsay MacDonald, said to me just now, "You must be the proudest and happiest man in the world." This country and the whole world is under a debt of gratitude. None of the great figures of the past, like Gladstone, has done more good. I agreed with him, of course. Though I am not a figure of the past, not yet. But I am proud and happy because I feel that I am among friends. Mind you, I've heard it said that we are now a vast organization lacking a soul. I prefer to use the word organism, meaning a collection of individuals working together to produce programs, each dependent on each other. Now, some of you may miss the old place. Don't. I look on it with affection as the scene of great labor and some achievement by those of you who worked there with me in the past. But I do not regret the past, because regretting the past is a great mistake. I look forward, and only forward, to the future.
There was nothing of dismay in those early days. The compass and the chart led safe and sure to summit or descent. Yet within 6 years of hoisting the flag over Broadcasting House, I left. One of the most responsible, rewarding posts in all the world, and I left it. Was it inevitable? Or was it my own stupendous folly? Did I myself forge the key and open the door? Or was it my destiny?
Remember all those who are sick, especially those who are dear to us. Teach us, good Lord, to serve Thee as Thou deservest, to give and not to count the cost. Leave the cat alone, Master. To fight and not to heed the wounds, to toil and not to seek for rest, to labor and not to ask for any reward, save that of knowing that we do Thy will. The atmosphere in the BBC is unhealthy, overwrought, and morbid. In the entrance hall, a carved stone proclaims that the BBC is dedicated to Almighty God, Sir John Reith being the first Director General. God's Director General, one assumes.
Dawn?
Read it for yourself. How the world sees your husband.
It's only some wretched politician.
Lambert is not a politician.
Lambert? You mean Mr. Lambert? He wouldn't write a thing like this.
No, not personally. But that's where I got it from. Listen to this. Senior staff at the BBC know only too well that favouritism and intrigue are the means whereby the internal administration of the BBC is carried on. There's Lambert for you. Another rat gnawing at the foundations.
Post on, Mummy. Photograph, Canarton and Cliffy. These the ones you took on our cruise, Daddy?
I expect so. Mr. Butch certainly taking long enough to do them. Don't put your dirty finger marks all over them.
They're not dirty.
How have all the papers suddenly been so beastly?
That last-ditch attempt to stop us getting a new charter, even the Times. Today, the Cabinet Committee must decide the future of the BBC. In return for renewal of the charter, they must demand that the BBC sets its house in order.
The usual thing, isn't it?
No, it isn't. This time they want to be rid of me.
I'm sure they do.
Is this the boat? It's huge. Look, Mummy.
The editor of The Listener has stated that members of the BBC are terrorized into submission. Lambert, that proves it.
What of it?
The new charter must not become a license for Sir John Reith to enjoy another 10 years of what he's pleased to call monopoly under God. Above all, he must not be allowed to rule his subjects like a dictator.
Oh, John.
The BBC, under the guidance of Sir John Reith, is the nearest thing in this country to government by the Nazis. And I'm supposed to give evidence to the Cabinet Committee when they've all read that. How about the snap, CJ? Not as good as with your baby brownie, I don't suppose.
Not bad.
They all seem to be of Helen Moyer.
Well, she's the only thing worth looking at.
You've been looking at her once or not?
And she's young and beautiful, don't be jealous.
This one's not on board the yacht. This one's at Ascot.
Huh, so it is. Do you like her hat?
You took her to Ascot.
Yes, and you know perfectly well I took Joe Stanley to the housemaster and Sybil Watchet to the Eldorado. A good old restaurant at Windsor. We used to go there a lot.
What's it like?
Not a bad thing what it was. Quite seedy.
I'm sorry to hear that. It used to be our very special place.
Well, you could have come if you wanted to. You never want to go anywhere. Be honest, you're not gregarious. I am. That's the difference.
I'm not discontented. That's the difference.
I am not having an affair. I'm not being unfaithful.
John.
Oh, bother, Christopher. I'm jealous because I enjoy the company of young women. Because they cheer me up and make me laugh, which you never do.
One. Let's wave goodbye to Daddy. Why should you?
Because I need to see. You think something has gone wrong, hasn't it?
I hate Beaconsfield. So flat and boring. Boring, boring, boring. The infantry had no wire in front or behind them. peculiar shriek of a shell, the decimating rattle of machine gun, death poised to strike. Halfway through, I was taken short. Instead of returning to the latrines, I went a further 20 yards out into no man's land. I was asked, wasn't I afraid to take such risks? I have war in my blood, but where it comes from is a mystery.
Good morning, John. Have you seen the papers, Admiral? Hail Hitler. When am I wanted at the House of Commons, Miss Stanley?
Not till 3 o'clock, Sir John.
Put a call through to outside broadcast, will you, Mr. de Lavinia? And tell Mr. Lambert I want to see him immediately. What's this, Admiral? Oh, don't worry about this miserable cabinet committee. They're just trying to take a sideways swipe at us in the hopes of knocking Baldwin off his patch. Neville Chamberlain and Clement Attlee united in their hatred of me. That's the way to look at it. And all rats, gnawing at the fabric of the BBC. Everything that's decent and honest in a good report. Running this outfit lobby, you or me? The King cannot broadcast without the Prime Minister's permission and mine. If he comes round here, I shall personally refuse him permission to broadcast. Is that understood? I'm sorry for the man besotted with that wretched Simpson woman. When I saw him as the Prince of Wales in the trenches, I thought of him as my future king and emperor. I could see her have lain down and died for him. It's no right to cast away the crown of England and trample it in the mire. I shan't accept your resignation, Charles. Once we have our new charter and the battle's won, then you can retire in good order as befits a naval officer. I'm confident that when I go before the Cabinet Committee this afternoon, I will carry the day, as I always have done. One man against the lot of them.
Mr. Lambert's here, sir.
Oh, good. Ask him to wait, will you?
He says he's very busy, sir.
Good. Ask him to wait. Let him cool his heels.
I'd better go.
No. I need your support. Your moral support. He's a tricky customer.
Bullshit.
Difficult to shift. That's why I chose him for the listener in the first place. Someone who could take on the press barons and beat them.
And now he's joined the barons and taken us on. I should have seen it coming. He was always complaining about losing his editorial freedom.
It's not your fault that he's gone in for muckraking in the newspapers. Filth. Could smell the stink of it in this office. Hello? If anyone's to blame, it's the chairman. He's far too nice to everyone. Well, let us put our editor at his ease. Facing the light. You sit there. We'll make it into a cosy chat, and then we'll all shake hands, and that'll be the end of Mr. Lambert.
What are you going to say to him?
I'll say what I think, same as I always do. Come in, Lambert. Sorry to keep you waiting. Leave your coat.
Good morning. Good morning.
I hope you don't mind my collaring you like this before you've even got to the office. I have to go before the Cabinet Committee this afternoon. I understand that you're giving evidence first.
Yes.
At midday. Well, please sit down.
I brought you a copy of my review of Testament of Duty, written according to your instructions.
So I read it. Thank you.
Did you like it?
Not much. Poor effort.
I'm afraid Robert Bridges is hardly my favorite poet.
I was with him the night before he died. He gave me a signed copy. I admire both him and his work enormously.
Oh, well, one man heat.
Quite so. Do sit down. Here?
How did you get on your holiday?
I went to Germany.
Oh, I love Germany. Where did you go? We sailed all the way up the Rhine.
I was a guest at the Nuremberg rally.
Oh. As I too was asked, but I refused.
You should have gone. I met Adolf Hitler. Very friendly. He's done a great deal more for the working man than we have.
From the point of view of adult education and the like, that's your great hobby horse, isn't it?
Oh, I could go on about that for hours, but you don't want to hear about that. You want to know what I'm going to say in front of the Cabinet Committee, don't you?
Lambert, you've stirred up a hell of a lot of mud. A lot of it is stuck. Not just to the BBC, not just to me, but to yourself as well. What are you going to do about it?
Suppose you tell me.
I don't mind being made to look a figure of fun. In fact, I quite like it. Though I don't buy the originals like a politician. I like to regard myself as a hoarding round the BBC. When people throw rotten eggs at me, no matter, so long as the rest of the BBC can carry on undisturbed. But when the rotten eggs are thrown at me by the very people that I am trying to protect, that's a different matter. It breaks my heart.
What do you want me to say?
Oh, that's up to you. You're the first to complain about editorial interference. But I know what I'm going to say. The BBC will not accept a new charter limited to 5 years. I want another 10 years, preferably 20. I want no advertising. We must be independent, like the Bank of England or the Royal Society. Why should we hand over 50% of our license fee to the government so that they can give it back to us piecemeal? Or withhold it if they think we've been naughty boys? Do you know, Lambert, that in the last 7 years, the government has helped itself to £8 million of our money? Your money? All we need now is for you, a person who is well known as a man of integrity, ability, and conscience. to give to the Cabinet Committee the kind of evidence that you've given to the newspapers. They'll all pounce on it. Tory and Labour alike. They'll make it an excuse for taking over complete control of our finances and thereby our policy, our programs, and our staff. From that very moment, you will have to provide a service to the taste of Neville Chamberlain or Clement Attlee or whoever happens to be the umpteenth Postmaster General. What sort of articles will they allow you to publish on Abyssinia, or Spain, or India, or the Nazis and the Jews? You said you liked Hitler?
I believe he has a thirst for war, but a horror of starting one.
That's a very perceptive observation, isn't it, Sir Charles?
Yes, very.
And did you also have the chance to meet Dr. Goebbels?
No, sir.
And I think you met Herr Werner, their director of broadcasting, on his last visit?
Yes, I believe I did.
Because you might have asked Dr. Goebbels what happened to Herr Werner after he'd been ridiculed and vilified and finally beaten senseless.
I do not approve of the Nazis, God forbid.
But you approve of Hitler and his thirst for war.
I have no thirst for war. I'm a lifelong pacifist like my father before me.
Was his pacifism as aggressive as yours appears to be?
Well, he campaigned actively as an MP, like his great friend Viscount Snowden.
Snowden?
Yes. He's my godfather. I thought you knew.
I know now. I won't hold it against you. Provided his widow doesn't get back onto the board of governors. Your job is secure, Lambert. I give you my word. Now, my advice to you is this. Go home and discuss what I have said with your wife. I hope she's better, by the way. And I was going to say pray to God, but I seem to remember you telling me that you were an agnostic when I first met you.
Yes, I still am. I'm a humanist.
Oh, well, at least that means that you regard me as a human being.
Oh, yes, sir.
In 2 hours' time, you'll be at the House of Commons. Standing, alone, before the Cabinet Committee, representatives of this nation. Whatever you decide to do, you must know to be right, deep down within you. Otherwise, you will have lost something which you don't believe in, but which I am utterly convinced is at the center of every man's existence. You will have lost your soul. Your soul.
He's an odd customer. But I don't think he'll say anything against the BBC from now on.
Oh, you think it worked? Good.
Sir John, I've got this for you.
Oh?
I hadn't much time. I only saw the newspapers this morning. But we all wanted to do something to show that we don't agree with the House of Commons.
that's what the staff really thinks.
Your taxi's here, Sir John.
Thank you, Gilroy. Thank you, Miss Brown. Tell the staff I'm very grateful. It's not a mere testimonial. It's very useful ammunition.
Sir John, we appreciate very much the typical frankness with which you've spoken and the cogent way in which you've presented your evidence. And I'm sure you'll be relieved to know that the terms of the new charter shall be very much on the lines you propose as far as financial control and general policy are concerned. But you still haven't answered the question we posed as regards the rights of those who work within the BBC. Sir John, we've heard the same complaints on all sides, that there's no security of tenure, that everything is personal. Interviews, bonuses, salaries. Promotion dependent on the whim of one or two people. It's feudal serfdom. There appear to be no outlets for the natural feelings of frustration and anger which permeate the entire staff. If there's an injustice, to whom can the unfortunate person appeal? I know what my own answer to all this is. An association, such as we have in most government departments. A staff association. What's your objection to that?
This is one of the rare occasions in which I'm going to allow my terrorized staff to speak for themselves. This was thrust into my hands as I was leaving Broadcasting House. I knew nothing of it.
We, the undersigned, wish to express our loyalty to Sir John Reith and our entire approval of the way in which he conducts the affairs within the BBC. We are happy to remain as we are, and with the terms of our employment. We do not wish to be members of a staff association. 800 signatures collected in 2 hours by Doreen Barlow.
I gather it's the brainchild of one of our telephonists.
Well, that rather alters the complexion of things. Of course, there are still 1 or 2 minor reforms that we shall recommend, Sir John. We'll discuss them alone. But I don't think I'll be giving away any secrets when I say that this committee will certainly recommend Sir John Reith remains Director General. Yes. Hopefully for another 10 years.
10 years? Hopefully I shall be in the cabinet long before that. I received a signet ring from my parents. The family crest. And inside, God our shield. Father, Mother. The signet ring will keep me from danger, I hope. To lie face down in a field of mud is not my destiny. I looked again at my letter. I saw that my hand had not moved from the word I'd been writing when the shell burst. It was still on my destiny. The violets came from my own rockery. I'd picked them by torchlight. It was just a body. I knew it was. I almost had to make myself realize that this was the dear face I'd known so long. I felt so terrible. I could almost have lost my reason. I put my signet ring to her lips. I was conscious that the spirit of my darling mother had gone elsewhere. I prayed that I might be worthy of her marvelous love. My darling mother, Mater Delectissima.
Do you know, Miss Stanley, I had 433 letters of condolence. I've kept a few. Leave room for them. Here's the undertaker's bill. I made them knock off £5. They had the name of a garage in the back of the hearse.
The television set here from the BBC. Where shall we put it?
I don't want it in here. You can put it in the drawing room. You can watch it if you like. I can't stand the thing.
Well, I think it's wonderful. Don't you, Joe?
Waste of time.
Well, I prefer television to scrapbooks.
You should read this, Musie. The World Crisis by Winston Churchill.
No, thank you.
I'll give it to Jean next time she comes. Do you know that Jean says that Mother told her that the Sutherland pictures were to go to her? She even says I can't have the rocking chair. I'll just go and take it. Robbery with violence if necessary. Robbery with violence, do you hear?
I want to watch this. It'll be over in a minute.
That's what I keep telling the chief engineer. It's a 9 days wonder and it costs the earth. That's fine.
Can't you take the call in the study?
No, I can't. Could be the Prime Minister. Reith here? Oh, yes. It is. The Prime Minister. Yes, Prime Minister. Yes, Prime Minister. No, everything's prepared. As agreed, Windsor Castle. You've only got to say the word. Tomorrow. I'll be in London in 2 hours' time. I'll come and see you, sir. Goodbye. Well, as I thought, it's abdication. I'll stop at the Athenaeum.
It's really going to?
Yes, all for that wretched woman. What a pathetic man he is.
Windsor Castle, 11th of December, 1936. I waited for the man who until now had been my king. The microphone would bring the ears of the whole world into the king's study. I thought with quiet satisfaction of the vast and flawless efficiency of the unseen organization. I thought of all the regional and empire control rooms and transmitters, all the aerials with their carrier waves vibrating through the infinities of ether, especially the BBC engineers in utter competence at their post.
This is Windsor Castle. His Royal Highness, the Prince Edward.
At long last, I am able to say a few words of my own. I have never wanted to withhold anything, but until now, it has not been constitutionally possible for me to speak. A few hours ago, I discharged my last duty as King and Emperor. And now that I have been succeeded by my brother,
I sat on a rather odd-shaped sofa in the king's bedroom. The king no longer king, the owner no longer owner.
burden of responsibility, and to discharge my duties as king as I would wish to do, without the help and support of the woman I love.
She said he'd spoiled enough lives and she wasn't going to let him spoil hers.
Decision
She said she was going to get a nice fat sum out of him, king or no king. That's the woman he loves.
Well, I feel sorry for him.
I'm sorry for his brother. Thrown in at the deep end. I think I may offer my services as private secretary.
Director General of the BBC and Private Secretary to the King.
What's so amusing about that?
Oh, darling, you are funny. How could you possibly?
I'd resign as DG and become chairman.
Chairman?
Yes. When Ronald Norman's time is up.
The board would hate it.
What, hate having His Majesty's private secretary as chairman? I'd go down on their knees in humble gratitude. They're all such snobs.
Don't start. Just as we're going to bed.
I'm not starting. But I need your help, Maisie, to clarify this issue in my own mind.
What issue?
I don't want to go on being Director General for another 10 years. My mind needs stretching.
What about the poor king? His mind will need stretching with you as his secretary. He's got a stammer, hasn't he?
What's that got to do with it?
Well,
He needs someone who knows the ropes. Can organize his life for him.
he's got his mother and a wife to do that.
Don't. Yes, well, I suppose just one of my notions, as Mother used to say.
TJ rang up. He's homesick.
Well, he can't be. He's only been there a couple of months.
The first term at a new school's the worst.
Well, don't worry, I'll ring him up from the office. Tell them we'll come down and collect him next week. You should make friends. That's what I always say about C.J. He may be brainless, but he's very friendly.
You can call your own son brainless.
Oh, look at that microscope Winnie gave him at Christmas. Not interested. Marista could hardly keep her hands off it.
That's because she was jealous.
Marista? Jealous? Rubbish. I can talk to her. But C.J., it's like talking to a brick wall. All he ever wants to do is feed the hens and cut up logs.
Only because he admires you and wants to be like you. And that's the only thing he ever sees you do when you're at home.
Poor old C.J. I'm not much of a father. Homesick. He's got too much soul, that's his trouble. We'll collect him on Saturday for the weekend. Cheer him up. I can see everything you've got in your mouth, Christopher. Don't make it worse by clapping your lips.
I'm not.
Eat nice, as Winnie says. Oh, don't lick it. What's your serviette for?
Don't go on at him, John. Spoiling his day.
If he'd been taught manners instead of romping about in the nursery.
Oh.
Have another scone. McTavish.
I'm not McTavish.
Well, I've got to call you something. Why not McTavish? You see what happens if you don't introduce people, Christopher? They get called McTavish.
My name's Charles.
Charles what?
Bowser.
Bowser. Charles Bowser. Now we have it. You must be from Scotland. What a coincidence. Is your father called Charles, too?
Yes.
No. What about some ice cream?
Oh, yes, please.
No need to ask you, Christopher. John?
So this is your plot, is it, Milsey?
Plot?
How long have you been at St. Reith?
2 years, sir.
2 years. And you chose the school, you. Did you know that your father and I were acquainted for the best part of 10 years? He was 17 when we met. You look not unlike him. Has anybody ever told you that?
Oh, yes, sir. My old man designed the spitting image.
The spitting image. Why don't you take your friend out into the garden, Christopher?
Freezing outside.
The nursery, then. Go to the nursery.
Play ping pong. Go on. I'll take on the winner.
He's no good. Come on, Bowser. What's your hands, Cat?
And take Marista with you. Really, John?
Of all the despicable things to do.
Why? John, Charlie and Maisie were my friends too. Are my friends. Just because they won't let you dominate their lives as you dominate mine. It is 15 years since they married.
13. And for all those years, you kept up a secret correspondence.
Of course I didn't.
Don't tell me a lie, you.
You know perfectly well we had Christmas cards.
Don't lie. There can be no trust or happiness where there are lies. Speak the truth.
Right. But you'll have to listen for a change.
If there's something worth listening to.
So just listen, John, please.
Why clear away, Lady Reith?
thank you.
Feeling any better?
Oh, my head aches a bit.
Oh. Go to bed. We can manage.
Oh, thank you very much. Did you have a pleasant day?
Yes, thank you.
No. No, we did not, Willie.
I'll say good night now.
Take some syrup for figs. There's some upstairs.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I'm listening. We were talking of Charlie.
Why were you ever friends in the first place? Have you ever asked yourself that?
Never. We weren't friends. We were David and Jonathan. We were brothers till that Jezebel came along.
Jezebel? You pushed him into Maisie's arms, and you pushed her into his. You arranged the wedding, and then signed the register and fixed up the honeymoon. And when it was over, you expected the same old Charlie to come back and say, "Thank you very much for giving me my wife and family, and now I'm yours again forevermore." You were always going on about the virtues of loyalty. You wouldn't let him be loyal to Maisie.
She meant nothing. I offered Charlie a job. He could have been in the BBC at my side from the very beginning.
He had to get away from you, like a son getting away from his father. You understand that? Didn't you want to get away from your father?
Never. Charlie refused my offer. He wrote me a letter. He rejected me. I will now read my letter to Charlie. I have just added a P.S. I will read that first. I didn't know a child of yours was at Sandroyd till this afternoon. If in future any of us chance to meet there, or anywhere else for that matter, let it be as strangers. Now the letter. Dear Mr. Bowser, recently I came across a copy of a letter from my late mother to you, and your reply. She made some quite inaccurate, unfounded, and incredible remarks, which even this late I want to correct. She wrote that I still, 1, had photos of you in evidence, 2, felt friendly towards you and regretted the termination of our acquaintance, 3, desired its resumption. I cannot imagine where she got all this nonsense from. There hasn't been a photo or relic of you in my possession for years. A ring was sold for its gold equivalent. The prayer book you gave me at the top of the Cairngorms, long since lost. You say you are ever on the lookout for a bridge, and that if you ever find it, you trust you will have the strength to cross it. Whatever do you mean by that? Anything at all, Charlie? No reply required. Yours truly. I'm sorry you don't approve.
After meeting his son, a little boy. How can you feel so bitter and resentful? You need friendship and love. Do you want it anymore? To write a letter like that.
Those young days are dead. This letter perished.
would be broken bodies among us very soon. But how many would their next communion be face to face within the veil?
Nice girl, not a sailor, eh? Can I interrupt the fond farewells for a moment?
No.
Now, you may remember that at the last governor's meeting, several names were put forward as possible director generals to take my place when I go. Miss Stanley has written out a list with their case histories. Would you now give them out, Miss Stanley? They're all numbered. And I might add, top secret, and they have to be signed for.
I don't need a list of names. As far as I'm concerned, there's only one possibility, Professor Ogilvy.
Sir Ian, your concern should be for the BBC and not the Conservative Party.
As this isn't an official governor's meeting, and we've only assembled here today to honour Admiral Carpendale, I'll treat that remark with the contempt it deserves.
Oh, well, if we're going to resort to cliches, I'll say that I'm a man who calls a spade and leave it at that.
I really don't think we shall get too worked up about this. Sir John hasn't resigned yet, and I, for one, would much prefer him to stay.
Here, here. Sir John, they're all waiting.
Well, come on, everybody. Down to the concert hall.
Concert hall?
Come on, Charles. Admiral Sir Charles Carpendale came to the BBC in 1923. I can picture him now, wrinkling his forehead in puzzlement at the weird and wonderful people and things he was so suddenly called upon to deal with. But deal with them he did, with characteristic, gusty cheerfulness. His brilliant naval career had given him a wider look at the world than was vouchsafed to most of us. And his great gifts included an ability to manage all sorts of men and situations with kindness and firmness. Once upon his quarterdeck, even the most difficult and cantankerous of people, such as musicians and director generals, would agree to play together. Charles Carpendale was friend to everyone in the BBC, and especially to me. So when I say thank you, and God preserve you in all your doings, and provide you with a long and happy retirement, I say it from the heart. Thank you, Admiral.
The great feature of Sir John's leadership is that you know where you are with him. There's no tittle-tattle. So he's made it quite clear to me and to everyone else that I have now retired. Now, there are lots of familiar faces from the Savoy Hill days. And you know, when we're together, we sometimes flatter each other that we played a prominent part in making the BBC what it is. But it was not any one of us who made the BBC. It was the BBC who made every one of us. And Sir John made the BBC. Thank you, John.
3 cheers for the Admiral. Hip, hip. Hip, hip. Hip, hip, hip. And now he'll be piped over the side.
It all passed off very well. No pain of parting. The Admiral was retired almost before he knew it had happened. And I was left with a question mark. How shall I feel when it's my turn to go?
Now, over here. Now, careful how you put that. Well done, Clark.
Perfect fit, sir.
Ah, that's far better. I can get far more light. I can put my diaries here and my scrapbooks all in one piece. That's more like it. Clark, isn't it?
Aye. Till the next time.
Oh, change is good for the soul.
Oh, is that what you call it?
Oh, here. Give these books to Mrs. Clark. Does she do much reading?
Well, not a lot, sir, but she'll appreciate them, I know.
Well, I can recommend the Kitchener biography. It's quite racy. Here they are. Just done in time. Tell Lady Reith to come and see, Clark.
Right, Sir John.
Well, what do you think, Musie?
Great improvement.
I can get the sun on my back.
Yes, yes. So, the Prime Minister didn't offer you anything?
Scrapbook from 1926. Oh, he said I was a genius, but he didn't offer me a cabinet post. Yeah, we should have a plaque on this desk. At this desk, Stanley Baldwin made the broadcast that broke the general strike. You remember that? I suppose I'm what's called bitterly disappointed.
That's why you changed the furniture around.
No, it's to get the sun. Chamberlain's mind's full of nothing but his forthcoming visit to Hitler's Germany. He said he wished I was coming with him. However, he wants me to reorganize and revitalize the airways of the country.
Well, that sounds like a challenge.
A challenge to reorganize Imperial Airways?
Well, if there's a war...
I should have a ministry. And nearly walked straight out. Damn shilly-shally. If I'm faced with a challenge, I set a favor in my cap, hold my lance aloft, and charge the enemy.
And wear your heart on your sleeve.
When it comes to politics, I am unsentimental and unemotional.
So, you didn't accept?
I said I was reluctant. Very reluctant.
Why?
Various reasons. For one thing, I told him you don't like flying. Hate it.
That's got nothing to do with it.
You're my wife. You're a very important part of my life. If you don't like what I'm doing, I can't be happy.
But you need a change, John. This job will stretch you.
Only if I can work at the BBC as well. Otherwise, I told him I shall feel castrated. Constipated and castrated were my actual words.
You can't possibly be Director General and at the same
I can be
time...
chairman. Norman's time is up. I can be chairman. Cecil Graves can be Director General, and I can be chairman.
You told the Prime Minister?
No. I'll tell him till after tomorrow's governor's meeting. Well, once they understand the situation. Only Ian Fraser wants me to go. The others know that to have me as the next chairman solve a lot of their problems. Oh, they'll be thrilled to bits.
In a nutshell, what Sir John is suggesting is that we appoint Cecil Graves as the next Director General so that you can take your job with Imperial Airways. And then you want us to recommend that you become the next chairman of the BBC.
And the Prime Minister wants you to make your decision known as soon as possible.
Well, we shall do our best, of course, but it's very short notice.
But you've known for years that I was wanting to leave.
Wanting to leave, yes, but not wanting to be chairman.
Sir John, we all love you dearly, but we can't rush this through. After all, we've agreed to see Professor Ogleby the day after tomorrow.
Well, if you seriously want to appoint a Director General who doesn't know the first thing about broadcasting and who won't say boo to a goose...
Now, let us be fair.
Yes, let's. Ring him up. Tell him not to come. Very sorry, and we'll refund his train fare. You cannot have a better Director General than Cecil Graves or a better chairman than me.
John, I think the feeling of the board is that we would prefer to discuss this alone.
Very well. Do you mind, Miss Stanley?
Miss Fry means without you.
Right. I'll be in my office.
The CEO asked me to look at the outer perimeter wire. Of course, I realized that in my best rig I was pretty conspicuous. But I was determined not to get it dirty. So I climbed up and walked over the...
Prime Minister, are you instructing me to join Imperial Airways and leave the BBC? I am not a civil servant, but I am prepared to do what I'm told. My board must have a decision, and so must I. Prime Minister, you are leader of the government, and as such you are its spokesman, quite impersonal. Is it the wish of His Majesty's government that I should leave the BBC? Thank you, Prime Minister. I hope I shall prove a loyal and...
One evening, when I was walking past the cricket nets at school, I was hit in the side of the head by a straight drive down the pitch over the bowler's head. But that was not the explanation that the thunderous crack on the head was singing in my ear. The Germans wouldn't hit a cricket ball at me. The last time I'd been hit. Look at the blood, my new tunic. My blood. I've been hit in the head, in the face, gone through, smashed my teeth. No. Bullet in the head. Lie down. I'll be hit again. Lie down. No field dressing with this tunic. My new tunic's ruined. Blood everywhere. Is the bullet in my head? Is the bullet in my head? Miss Barlow, how many calls of mine have you put through? No, not today. Since the first one. Thousands. I must have spoken to you more often than to any other woman. And never a cross word. That's all. In a very shaky hand, I wrote my mother's name. And then, I'm all right. By the time this reaches you, I shall have left the BBC. It is not possible to take my leave even of heads of departments individually. But the mere going is painful enough. So I'm not altogether sorry. I cannot leave, however, without sending this note to wish you and your staffs every happiness and good fortune. If your work and your personal contacts here give you as much satisfaction as mine have me, you'll realize when your time comes how I'm feeling today. Goodbye. And thank you. See, that's on the desk of all sectional and departmental heads first thing in the morning. Nobody's to see it till then. That's all. Muriel's supposed to be taking me to that wretched party at the Cromers.
board are ready for you now, Sir John.
Thank you, Miss Stanley.
John?
I've come to inform the board that I no longer wish my name put forward to the Prime Minister as a possible candidate for the next chairmanship. I do not wish even to be a governor or to be on any of the committees. I wish to have no further connection whatsoever with the British Broadcasting Corporation.
You mean you're resigning officially? I see. Well, thank you, Sir John. And may I accept your resignation on behalf of the BBC? And may I say it is with sorrow and gratitude for all the work we've done.
There's no need for you to fumble for platitudes. No farewell speeches, please. No farewell dinners or presentations paid for out of BBC funds.
If that is the way you wish it, Sir John?
It is.
We have agreed to give you a year's salary in advance, as it were.
Even though you're not entitled to it.
Not entitled, Sir Ian? So the Director General is not entitled to the same treatment which is meted out to any other member of staff when leaving?
Strictly speaking, no. After all, you made the rules.
Then I shall abide by the rules. I do not wish for the £10,000 and will refuse it if offered.
John, think it over. I say, we all say.
You've said enough.
I felt weak and sick and very angry with myself. I was only wounded, but I'd been in the front line for just 3 weeks. All the fuss to get there.
Hello, Museum. So no Lashbridge. They don't want me, Museum. I shall be starting at Imperial Airways on Monday morning. At least they won't have to sit through any more of their interminable board meetings. They can speak peace to each other ad infinitum for all I care. Ashbridge, I have 1 television set and 1 wireless at home. Arrange to have them removed tomorrow, will you? There is nothing wrong with them except that they are the property of the BBC.
John, darling.
Ashbridge, I want to give you something for Peter Eckersley. He used to joke about it being a certificate for regular attendance at Sunday school that hangs in my office. Belonged to my late father. It was signed and given to him by the teacher he admired most at Aberdeen, Clark Maxwell. The man who discovered wireless, if any man did. I'll leave it with Miss Stanley.
Hello, Muriel. John, I wish you would reconsider the question of the money. After all, it's yours by right, and you do have a family to think about. But there is one more thing. The board asked me if you wouldn't mind putting your resignation in writing. just for tidiness' sake.
For tidiness' sake, then.
We all feel dreadful that you should go like this, John. Everyone will want to give you a proper send-off. Not just the governors, everyone. It's a personal loss. Especially for me.
But you need my resignation in writing. Once you've announced your betrothal to the attractive young suitor of your choice, you don't want to wake up in the morning and find a dissolute old wretch on the doorstep demanding restitution of his rights. Now then, I resign. I shall resign. I have resigned. There it is in all three tenses. Best wishes. Yours sincerely, J.C.W. Reith. Late. BBC.
Thank you. I feel somehow that this is my fault. I feel somehow I could have saved you this humiliation.
I hear you, man. Is that understood? I hear you very well.
The sky is so blue. I remembered my boyhood, singing in the choir, above the clear blue sky, in heaven's bright abode.
farewell ceremony, I walked out as quietly as I had walked in. First, Director General of the British Broadcasting Corporation, John Charles Walsham Reith. And that's the end of that.